Testing. Hey everybody, this is not Lewis or Justin. This is Abe talking to you, getting ready. I am here covering for Lewis today. Lewis had some technical issue. Just getting ready to get started in a couple of minutes. You're listening to, I guess this is some of the awesome music that Lewis creates. Just grabbed this from the opening of one of his latest shows. This guy produces amazing music, man. I'm really love the way he combines this kind of old sensitivity, this old kind of bluesy sort of sound with like new electronic sounds. Really great music he makes. But unfortunately, he won't be joining us today. It'll be me. I hope I can hold down the fort for him in a good way. All right, so let's start the show. What do you say? Let's just go ahead and begin. Hey everybody, welcome back to 343 TV. My name is Abe Duque. I am here usually on Fridays, but today I'm covering for Louis Beck, who had some technical issues and last minute, and we figured it'd be better if I could just step in for a little bit. Hopefully, I'll be doing him justice with what he had prepared to talk to you about, which is saturation. It's a little bit something I talk about often in my classes. Louis and I teach at a school called 343 Labs. 343 Labs is the parent of 343 TV. And Louis and I are instructors at the school. There's classes we have happening all the time. So what you're watching here is us trying to give you some information and feed you as much as we can within this window that we have on a weekly basis. But if you want to see this happen all the time and direct it at you and your situations and your challenges, please come and take a class with us. Come in. I have a class actually starting next week on May 11th. Meets Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's an online class. It starts at 7:15. Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7:15. It's an Ableton intermediate course. So if you like what you see and what you hear about how I'm kind of showing you the ropes here, maybe you'll come and take a class with us. Other than that, we're here let me get this right, every Tuesday with Tetro Talks, Wednesday with Electronic Music Essentials, and Friday, I'm here doing my production show, and I will be here again on Friday. So you'll see me twice this week. And we have Saturdays. John Selby has his Techno Saturday show, which is always a lot of fun. And he's been having a slew of amazing guests recently, which have been a great thing to just watch and learn from. Okay, let's have a look at the chat, see what's going on. I see very familiar faces, names, in the chat. William Mindreaders, Pavel, K2 is here. I saw Enigmatic Onion around there somewhere earlier. Hopefully, see some more names, but William Mindreaders is very active right now in the chat, saying hello to everybody. But all right, so let's get to it. And by the way, if you're here for the first time, would be really cool if you could just hit the subscribe button. Just make sure you know when we have these shows coming on to you, and the notification bell as well. Now, let's get into the subject today. Today, we're meant to talk about saturation. Saturation is something that I'm actually very familiar with, so I'm very happy to fill in and talk about this. So, saturation. I would say saturation is a blanket term for that covers a lot of processes. So it's nothing saturation. When you say something is saturated, it's nothing particular that you're referring to. The same thing could be said for something like coloring, right? Coloring, which I think is in the title of the show, coloring and saturation basically are referring to the same thing, to the idea that the sound underwent some sort of change by having it go through a certain process or processes, so that we can add things that weren't there before. Basically, it adds stuff that wasn't there before. So what is it that it adds? Well, in the different types of processes, there's different types of things that are added, but mostly it boils down to harmonics. Now, what are harmonics? Let's get right into it. Let me open my Ableton screen, and maybe I'll start showing you some things here about what harmonics are. So let me get my situation here set up, and just pull in my Ableton screen, and hopefully everything's okay. Guys, if there's anything, I had to set up in a flash, so if there's anything that I'm missing, if my voice is too loud or not loud enough, if I'm not showing anything on the screen, please just let me know in the chat, and I'll be looking there just to kind of keep me in line here and keep me honest with what I'm doing. Okay, so let's we were talking about saturation. Let me get my mouse to show up here. There it is. So I'm going to grab, and now I don't need this piece here for now. I'm going to grab a synthesizer called the operator. The operator has a really nice feature that it provides you with really great waveforms, and namely the sine wave in an operator is what we might call a more or less pure sine wave. So why is it important for us to start with a sine wave? Well, a sine wave is the sine wave is the basic building block of all sound. So every sound you've ever heard is a stack of sine waves on top of each other. And it boils down to just really the purest thing. So sound is a energy wave that's basically an air disturbance. That well, if we're talking about sound in air, right? It's basically an air disturbance. So there's something that causes a sound. Let's say I put my hands together and make an air disturbance, which comes across as a clap, right? The sound or the air disturbance goes out in a spherical fashion. But this air disturbance takes the course of least resistance. So imagine taking a pebble and throwing it into a pond, right? You take it, throw it into the pond, and what you get out of the pond, or out of the center of what the pebble, where the pebble has been thrown, is a rippling set of waves that come out. And the waves, they basically take the same shape of a sine wave, which is basically this. It's just up and down. It's the course of least resistance. They don't form themselves into square waves. They don't form themselves into saw waves or any other more complex wave than that. They form themselves into sine waves. They form themselves into the course of least resistance, this. And that happens to air, sound in air as well. So the air disturbance is now moving across space in a spherical fashion, in the form of a sine wave, if that's all that we have. But if we have a more complex sound, we have just a stack of sine waves all around. And when we get it to our ears, it comes in as such. But you have to understand that the most simplest idea of a sound is a sine wave. Now, in here, in an operator, and I'm going to pull in maybe also a spectrum analyzer. It's very nice to be able to see the sound that you're talking about. We can have a look at what a sine wave looks like. So this is one frequency right here. Right now I'm playing a C note, and this C note is about 66 or so hertz. Okay, so one sine wave. And as you can see, there's nothing else except for like these little guys here. But these little guys, they really mean nothing. They're what you may call artifacts. And this is as pure a sine wave as you're ever going to get in a synthesizer. I mean, that is, I mean, really, you should really not mind these little things at all. They're really nothing. But it's basically a sound that has one frequency. One frequency. So sound is, is comprised of sine waves that appear in different frequencies. If we are listening to one frequency, this is what we look at, one frequency. Now, if I move the frequency up in the notes, all we get is that one frequency moving up and down. But it's just one little mountain, one little bump happening there, one frequency. Well, what happens when we get saturation? Well, when we get saturation, we get more frequencies added on. Now, how and why and what makes it saturation and what makes it harmonic distortion, which is a way that we can describe saturation. Well, what makes it that is that it follows what we might call the harmonic series. So the harmonic series is something that you as a musician or a producer should certainly be very familiar with, because it's the building block, it's the basic idea of how sound is put together and used in music, and how we deal with sound and their textures. So in nature, we have harmonics appear, and basically what a harmonic is a multiple of the frequency. So if I have a frequency here, which is the C note, I can create a set of harmonics based on this, and I can do this easily by just applying a little bit of FM synthesis, which perturbs the note. But as soon as I add a little bit of FM, you'll see that now you're not only talking about one frequency, you're talking about other frequencies that are now popping in. Now, right now, listen to that, what that sounds like right now, and let's take it away. And there's a bit of a extra push to it. I'll be quiet and I'll let you listen to it. I'll increase it a little more so that you could hear a little more going on. So now it's really rolling in, and I'll take it off. So FM, in a sense, is a form of saturation. It's a way that to achieve some sort of signature based on the harmonic series. It's a very simple signature. It's just every one of these is a half of the amplitude of the one after that. And this is why FM sounds so good, because FM adds to the saturation, or adds frequencies that weren't there before, and thus it gives you the appearance of something thicker, of something a little more than you had when you started. Let's have a look in the chat, see what's going on. Rashane says hello. Hey, Rashane, what's up? Do you have Vertigo VSM3? I don't know if you're asking me, but I don't. I only hear your voice. Anyone hear sound from Ableton? Good call. Let me just check that Ableton is set to send out sound. And it should be. Hold on, I'm testing it. And it does send out the sound. It is just sending out a very low frequency. Now, what you might not be hearing is the fact that maybe you're listening to, and tell me if this is right, Pavel. Maybe you're listening to it on laptop speakers, or maybe you're listening to it on very small speakers, and because of this, the low frequency that I'm making, which is a 66 hertz frequency, is not cutting through. And what we need is some saturation to help it cut through. So a little bit of this, maybe a little more. This is like extreme, it's not very complex saturation, very simple, extreme simple saturation. Now you could hear more of that low end because your brain fixates on what's supposed to be happening here, but it allows you to take these little anchors to kind of give you a picture of what's happening on the low end. That's really what's happening in your brain here. This is a real good reason to use saturation. It's because low end, starting with low end, sometimes it's hard to hear through, like, say, something like laptop speakers, or something like a very small any small system that can't create lower frequencies. Now I'm only at 66 hertz. I could go lower, like a good low frequency that like a drum and bass producer would like to use, or something like that would be, or a trap producer would be, a frequency that would be closer to a 50 hertz. So let's see what this one is. This one's let's try that one. That's 54 hertz. No, that's about 50 hertz. That's super low. That's the rumble that you get in a club, in the system, or in the festival, the stuff you feel in your chest. That's that. But if you can't hear that, now you probably hear it now with a little bit of this added on top. But with nothing, pure 50 hertz frequency, a lot of you are going to have trouble hearing that on just, say, laptop speakers, because laptop speakers will not get as low maybe as 50 hertz. It takes a system that's a little bit bigger to make it happen. So let's see. Pavel says, you have right. I have now headphones and it's working. That's right. So in headphones you'll hear it, but not on your sound system. So this makes a great argument for using saturation. So a lot of producers want to make sure, it's a situation. It's kind of a tough situation to be in as a producer. You're making music that you want to work at the club and at the festival. You want it to like blow those speakers apart, right, at the club and at this festival. So to do that, you need to make a low frequency like this low G that I'm playing now. That's 50 hertz. But in a common everyday listening situation, like in, like, say, laptop speakers, or even earbuds, or even smaller bookshelf type speakers, you may not have a good success with playing that frequency. So now you make a track, and you can't think of making a track that's only going to work and only going to be able to be played in a in a big venue so that you could appreciate it. You got to be able to make out what's happening on the low end. So we have that, and so we could add some saturation. And this is, again, I said, this is FM. This is really the simplest type of saturation that I could imagine. But you could already feel now that there's more going on there. Listen to the difference. So that's just a pure sine wave of 50 hertz, and that's with added plus harmonics on top of that. See, some added harmonics on there. That's amazing. See, look at that. And then added on top of that. So that is with FM. Now, I pick FM because FM is the easiest way to start to understand the harmonic series. For real saturation, or good saturation, or the right saturation you want to use, is going to be harmonic distortion, meaning that it fits within this scheme of this harmonic series. And the harmonic series you can go like pi with that. You can go infinite with it. So let me just show you what happens in the harmonic series. So here we have a C note, very low. I'm playing a 30 hertz note. You guys should have real trouble hearing that, right? But I have other frequencies. So that's a C note. And then the next frequency, and let me do it an octave up so that those that are really on laptop speakers can have something to hold on to. So that's a C note, a little bit higher now at 65 hertz. And the first harmonic is this. This is what we call the fundamental. So get to know this jargon, because a lot of people that engineers will talk to you this way. They'll say, yeah, the fundamental, and you're like, what's the fundamental? Well, the fundamental is this, the lowest and most powerful frequency that you have here. So the fundamental is the first harmonic. And how do we get at the next harmonic? Well, it's basically all going to be multiples of the fundamental. So the first harmonic times 2 is going to be this harmonic here. So whenever, and a good thing to note, and just remember this because it's something that's going to help you all through, is whenever you want to get another octave out of a frequency, all you have to do is double it. So if you want to go an octave up and say this frequency here is 66, if you want to get an octave up, you just double it. So 1 times 2 is 1 times this frequency, which is 2 times this frequency, math. 2 2 times this frequency, 66, should be what is 118 or 130? Sorry, 132. Again, math. So 132. And that's the first harmonic. I mean, the second harmonic. It's just doubled this frequency. And whenever you double the frequency, you get an octave. So if you look at the note that comes in, if you look at the bottom left-hand corner of the spectrum device, you'll see that the note is a C. It's a C note, C2. So C and then C again. But now let's go to the next harmonic. The next harmonic is going to be 3 times the fundamental frequency. Now, 3 times the fundamental frequency doesn't make doubling the octave. It makes the octave times 2 and a little bit more, so 1.5 times the octave, I guess, right? So this one is one double, but this is triple the fundamental frequency. And what do you get? You get, of course, you get the number, which is showing up as like 198 or something like there, which would be 3 times the fundamental. And you get a note that is a G note. So the 5th appears here. So, wow, wait, let's keep on going. Well, the next one is 4 times the fundamental. And what do you get? Well, you get another C. Why? Well, it's doubled once, and now 4 times doubles these 2 again. So now we have another C. Remember, every time you double a frequency, you get the next octave, right? So now let's go to the next one. Well, this is 5 times the fundamental, and what do you get? You get an E note. The E note would be the major third. So what you start to realize is that you have the building blocks, or at least Pythagoras realized this, that he had the building blocks for the for the Western scale. We have now, if you keep on going, you'll see all these notes pop up. These are notes that are sympathetic to the fundamental because they're multiples of it. And to us and in nature, they sound good. They make sense. They make sense. They fit mathematically into the scheme of fundamental, from the fundamental all the way on, multiples of the fundamental. So because of that, we like the way they sound. And if you sprinkle them across on top of the fundamental, they feel very musical. They feel very musical because, it just, it feels like actually, what do we have here? If you really think about it, we have a C plus another C, which is reinforcing, and then a G, and then another C, and then another and an E. Well, what do you get? You get you basically get a chord. It's music. It's kind of like it's expansion of frequency, expansion of that one fundamental. So that fundamental is not alone. It has this kind of fun flavored sort of companion frequencies, which we call overtones, or we call them partials, or we can also refer to them as harmonic distortion. Let's have a look in the chat. Yes, I am not Justin. Max Wild is here. Asking if this is not Justin. No, Max, this is not Justin. This is Abe. I took over the show. Justin had some technical difficulties, so wasn't able to do the show today, so I just jumped in last minute. Let's see. Andrew Duke, unexpected and appreciated. Surprised to see you, Mr. Duke. Thank you, Andrew. And it's always great to see you in the chat. And we have already Friday. No, it's not Friday yet. Friday is on its way. Friday is coming. I will be here on Friday. And Friday, I'll be starting a new track. We just finished another track, and this time on Friday I want to do some techno, because I've done a good amount of techno in my life. I'm going to do some techno, and I'm going to do it on Ableton. I'm gonna use only Ableton devices. I'm gonna try to keep myself away from all my toys for now. I mean, with this next track, it's really gonna be for those people that use Ableton and just want to know if you can make something cool just in the box using Ableton devices. We're gonna do that and get that to you. Which we're working on a way to get all these projects set up and packaged so that you guys can have access to them. And we're still working that out. And just be on the lookout for what's going to be happening with that. Hi, Justin. You look different. Yeah, maybe I should put a some sort of like tarp over me, or he usually puts like a poncho over him, and maybe we should put a poncho over me and pretend I'm Justin, right? Get a little bit of a wig going with a little bit longer hair. I don't think I won't pass even. Anyway, did I forget to mention? First of all, we have a giveaway this weekend. We have a week that happens on Saturday on John's show, on John's Techno Show. This week's giveaway is one copy of Arturia Pigments. Pigments is an amazing synthesizer. I remember when Pigments first came out, when they just dropped it. It must have been a couple of years ago. I went off and grabbed a 30-day demo, and man, the thing is just, it could be one of the last analog styled synthesizers you'll have. Not true, because who you're talking to. I mean, I can't stop grabbing this stuff, but it is certainly a very nice synthesizer. If you're interested in it, you could sign up for it. Maybe Thomas or Max could drop in the chat how it is exactly that you guys register for that, for the giveaway on Saturday. But if you tune in on Saturday, you'll see if you've won or not the Pigment. All right, so I see La Novella is here. Hello. Haven't seen La Novella in a while. Let's see. All right, let's keep on going. So we were talking about saturation. Once again, and I explained that saturation is a process, or it's what happens to sound when it undergoes a certain process. And well, in this case, what we've been doing is just been performing some FM, some frequency modulation, and changing and making it. And I like to introduce people to saturation with frequency modulation, because you see a very clear picture of the harmonic series. Because once again, what saturation is just an addition, a set of harmonics that are added into a particular sound. So now let's go back to just having a pure sine wave here. Now, there are plenty of devices that can cause saturation, and I'm going to give you a bunch of them. So, for example, let's take something as simple as, let's see, Ableton had a compressor, right? Before it had something called the glue compressor. Now, some people have asked me, and I'm going to grab this glue compressor and throw it in here. And people have asked me, like, why would Ableton add this compressor that let me put it side by side with the other compressor. So the compressor that was Ableton's compressor, has a lot of pages you can get into, a lot of parameters you could tweak. When it comes to ratio, you can really go very specific with it. You can go all the way to like 1.0. Right now I'm at 1.03 to 1, right, in the ratio, and you could go all the way up to like 64 or something like that, or infinity really. And the attack, look at the amount of milliseconds and how precise I can make this attack happen. And that's the same thing for the release. And then you have peak and RMS mode and upward expansion mode. Man, this compressor is pretty set up. I mean, you could play with the knee here. You can do all sorts of things with this compressor. You could do side chaining. It's pretty much a well set up compressor. So we grab this compressor and we're happy to use it. But then at one point, I think in Ableton 9, I think it was, or maybe 8, I don't remember exactly. If somebody knows, you could write it in the chat. But somewhere between Ableton 8 and 9 came this thing called the glue compressor, which is a compressor that has these like click, 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 just these clicks on it for attack, and and then the release the same click, 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 and then ratio of choices of 2, 4, and 10. And like, why would Ableton do that, considering that they have such a well-developed compressor ready? And, now we're looking at this compressor that is like, it seems to be like a Fisher-Price compressor for kids, as I say sometimes. Well, the reason is because this compressor, the glue compressor, is really modeling a compressor, and so it's really one-to-one modeling a compressor that came from the SSL company, the Solid State Logic company, made a 4000 series mixing console, and the G series had a compressor built into the buses, and this compressor was the compressor that they modeled here. They call it the glue compressor now because engineers kind of gave it this nickname, the glue compressor, because it seemed to, when you added this to the bus, say the drums or just the master bus, it seemed to glue everything together, and it made everything kind of feel like it belonged together. But not only that, but it gave it this coloration or saturation that that wasn't there before, and this coloration had a signature to it. So let's have a look at this. So the reason this compressor really exists is because it's modeling this old circuitry. It's modeling this old sound that this one doesn't have. This is what you might call a transparent compressor, a compressor that's, very one-to-one. It's modern, it's very precise, and it's great to have, but a group companion for it would be a vintage sort of compressor that has, well, on top of everything, it has harmonics. And let's have a look at the harmonic signature that this glue compressor would have. So look at this. This is without it. And now I start to lower the threshold. And as soon as I lower the threshold, you'll see there's a signature here that's born from the fact that this is what happened to it as it underwent the process. So, and let me change the frequencies. And you can see sometimes when you change the frequencies, and maybe even the levels, the signature changes and shifts. Let me just show you how that happens. So now what do we have here? Well, we have the harmonic series that I showed you in the FM. We have the fundamental. Here, smaller than this, is the first harmonic. The second harmonic, which is the octave. Here is the third harmonic, which is the G note, which is very pronounced. Here is the C note. Here is the E note, and you go down the line with all these other notes and all these combinations, but there's a particular signature that this gives, and it does kind of play and change in influx as the amplitude comes through it. This is the harmonic content that is added to the sound that wasn't there before. This is what saturation is all about. This is what you mean when something is saturated, what's going on with it. Sorry, I have these class things for my kids, these reminders, so don't mind that. So all right, so now let's have a look. So that change. Let's see if you could hear the difference in the sound. I'm just gonna put this on and off. So it's a little quieter because of actually there's some gain reduction going on. So let me level match that so you could hear the difference. Listen to the difference between a pure sine wave and a sine wave going through a glue compressor. So that's just, once again, it's a little less level, and now with the glue compressor. So it's subtle, but it's surely a lot of coloration going on in there. So it's a very simple sound. And now it's a sound that's a little fuller, and this will help it cut through a mix of in another let me say in a bass line or anything. So let's compare it to some other saturators. Let's compare it, and the glue compressor wasn't meant to be a saturator. It was just that in that time when it was created, not this because it's software, of course, but what it's modeling, what the G series bus compressor did when it was created was it had this circuitry, analog circuitry that just sounded like this. So let's grab some old other modeled stuff. So let me have some UAD stuff in here that I like to play with. And universal audio, I mean. And let's start with, let's see, if the first one I see is going to be this API 2500, which some people have called the American answer to the glue compressor, because the glue compressor is an SSL version, SSL compressor. SSL, solid state logic, is from the UK, and it falls under this category of British compression, or British EQ, they call it. So let's see what the API 2500 will do as far as, I'm just going to put it, maybe I'll put it off screen for a second, a little bit off screen there. And then let's see what happens to the sound. Maybe I'll lower this a little bit. try to slip it in here. All right, let's see what happens to the sound when it goes through the API 2500. So already, you'll notice that the signature of this compressor is different than the signature that we had in the glue compressor. It's just a different signature altogether. So let's see what happens if I drive this compressor a little bit, meaning I lower the threshold. You see that there's a total different signature. Let's switch to the glue, and the glue has its own signature. Once again, with this one, another signature altogether. And let's make up for some of that lost gain that we get by actually compressing it. So there again is the signature from the API 2500, and here is the signature from the glue compressor. Let's try another compressor. Let's have a look. Let's see what we got. Let's see, so many compressors to choose from. Let's try, will be a simple compressor that, oh, you know what? The LA2A is an interesting compressor. That's more of a vocal compressor, but we could still have a look at what it's doing when it comes to harmonics. Where is that thing? That's the LA3A. Well, that's the LA3A. Let's look at the LA3A. The LA3A is a VCA compressor that's not exactly the LA2A, but why not? So where is this one? So it's a little tiny one here. But once again, look at that. Its own signature. It's got its own signature. Let's compare it to this one, which is another signature, and this one, which is another signature. Just again, have a look. So so every one of these devices, and compressors are known for being very good sources of saturation, especially vintage compressors. Let's look at another known source of saturation. So another process that you could have put your sound through, or you could still put it if you have it available to you, is the process of tape saturation. So let's have a look at, and that means recording it to magnetic tape. And so recording it to tape not only gives it a warm sound, but it does give it a musical sort of sound, because it does add, well, let's inspect and see what it does add. So let's see, I have this Ampex ATR 102. We can put this through and have a look at what's happening. Look, already it's sitting there and it's adding something that wasn't there before. But now, look at that. Look at this. This is C note. Then we have a smaller C. Then we have a G. Then we have a very pronounced E note. Very pronounced A sharp. What happens with tape saturation, and this is probably a good guideline to go by, that tape versus say tube or valve compression. The one process like the tape saturation is going to be very pronounced on the odd harmonics. So when we talk about harmonics, we talk about them in odd and even categories. So the odd ones are where all the musical notes appear, where the G notes appear, where the E notes appear, where things like that appear. The even ones are where the octaves can appear. So the more reinforced notes are happening there. This is where those are going down. So hold on. It's 1:36. I need to make a little small pause here. I need to talk to you guys a little bit about what you're actually watching. This is 343 TV. My name is Abe Duque. I'm covering today for Louis Beck, who couldn't make it because of technical issues. He will be back, of course, next week. We're talking about saturation. We're here every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, streaming at 1 o'clock. Please visit us. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. We're trying to get our numbers as high as we can get them. And if you could please also hit the, give me a like, maybe if you like what you're seeing, if you're learning a little bit about what you didn't know before. And even better than that, maybe you can visit our website at 343labs.com and have a look at our class schedules, because we have a school in New York and in Berlin, and we teach online all the time. We have a class. I have a class starting on next Tuesday, May 11th, where I'll be teaching an intermediate Ableton class Tuesdays and Thursdays between 7 and 9, I guess 7:15 and 9. So we meet twice a week, and it's an intermediate Ableton class. If you like what you see, maybe you can come on and sign up for a class and take a class with us so we can treat you the way we love to treat people and spoon feed you all this information the way you need it to be given to you. All right, so please don't forget, come in and visit us. So we were talking about saturation. We were talking about the different processes of saturation. So I could sit here all day and play you different and show you different signatures from different devices. Let me show you one more. There's like a very dedicated saturator. So most of the devices you're going to get saturation from are going to be preamps. They're going to be compressors. They're going to be tape machines, or their counterparts in the software world, the modeled versions of it. These are going to be that. But there have been some already devices that were created just to add saturation. For example, the Ableton Saturator, which you have like if you grab this here and have a look. Let's see where we drive and color. Here are all the things that you can use to drive and color things. The Ableton Saturator, and we'll throw that in there, is a perfect way to add a little bit of saturation. This one is the Harmonics series right there. It's basically a analog circuit, as you can see. Let's try a different process. Let's try a soft sine. It's another signature, and you could hear the difference between all the signatures. Another signature, more simple version there. It's digital clipping. Digital clipping has a little more high frequency distortion, and maybe the wave shaper, which, well, you have to do. That's kind of a little bit of a different thing. That's the Ableton Saturator. But let's go back to UAD. One of the ones that I like to show a lot, which is probably known as probably the number one sort of dedicated saturator in hardware, is this one here I'm about to find, hopefully. It has a really crazy name. It's called the Thermionic Culture Vulture. And it's this here, right? So this is a dedicated saturator. So this is a dedicated saturator, and you can drive it, of course, and get it going. You could change the bias, so where it's focused on, where the saturation is focused on. See how it changes where the saturation. And if you're working with saturation, it pays off to like have a look at the spectrum so you could learn about it. So these are different versions of the saturation. This is more severe distortion here, and there's another signature there. So these are what they call the triode and pentode modes of this thing. Pretty awesome saturator, and it's really going to get those extra frequencies, or there's the extra harmonics on your sound. So why at all make saturation happen? Why even reach for saturation? Well, we had a situation already that posed itself here in the chat, where we had a Pavel wasn't able to hear the sound that I was playing, and it was because I was playing a frequency that was so low that that didn't come through. So because he had small speakers, or maybe laptop speakers, I'm not sure exactly, but once we added a little bit of harmonics on there, we were able to latch on. Our ears were able to latch on to something, and we were able to hear it. So this happens all the time when we write bass lines, when we write kick drums. And now maybe I'll do a little sort of demo in a second, but why then maybe have it happen on vocals, or maybe on a guitar part, or maybe on drums? Well, it just beefs things up. So when do we use saturation? Well, you're going to have to develop a critical ear towards what you have, the material that you have, and how you want to apply it. Because if you have some sound and it's very full of saturation already, if you have like a drum part that was recorded full of saturation, full on, and then you add more saturation to that, you're gonna oversaturate it. It is possible to oversaturate things. That's just full on distortion after that. And it'll tend, what happens if you oversaturate something is that you'll lose detail in it. But if something is thin sounding or has, or feels like it's not girthy enough, saturation can surely fill it up and also warm it up. And also since it has that musical sort of component to it, since all the harmonics are musical, you're gonna feel that the musical difference. So let's create something here. Let's get a kick drum going. Let's create a kick drum from nowhere. So we're gonna create a kick drum with operator. Since operator has that nice sine wave, we're gonna create a nice low frequency kick. So let's go with that's a nice 50 hertz kick. So I'm just gonna do that and maybe lower the tempo a little bit, and maybe copy that and drop it in a couple of spots here, just to give us, I don't want to do a 4 on the floor. I'm always doing 4 on the floors, so just do this here. Okay, so in a way you could already say, hey, that's kind of a kick already, right? Like an 808 style kick. But let's give it really something to latch on. Let's give it a little punch, and the way we do that is we add a little pitch envelope to it. Now, those that have good speakers or on headphones right now are hearing some nice pure low frequency sine wave action going. But those that are listening on laptops and the such are going to have a problem with actually hearing any detail, because right now, I'm going to measure in a second, just going to see where we are here. We are at 44 hertz. That's a pretty low frequency. Now, as you could tell, there's not much else but this fundamental going on, and maybe whatever the pitch envelope creates by, if I just take the pitch envelope off, you'll see that it creates a little bit more of a bump there, but that's it. We don't have any other frequencies to latch on. So let's see what happens if we drop it into one of these devices. So let's start with the Goo compressor. And immediately, I can hear some more detail on the top. I'll be quiet and I'll A/B that for you. And you could see the frequency sort of popping through. Let's try another process. Let's try the API. So somehow the meter is not showing me exactly what's going on there. Maybe there's just too much energy for it to be detailed, but I could hear the difference big times. Let's go with the Culture Vulture. Oh, that's a radical difference. Now, I'll have to gain match that because it's, again, the gain is less than it was before. So, but you could see that, look, especially this second one here wasn't there before. And that's completely different than that. Let's try a different process, a different... Whoa, that's too much drive. And just use your ears now. But the frequencies over here, these are not the important ones. These are the ones that are right next to it. These musical notes that are right next to it that are going to give you that latching on feeling. And I'll turn it off again. And I'm being a little bit exaggerated with it, and it's also in the red here. I just want to make sure I'm not clipping in your ears. But this is pure and nice and deep and sounds good, but as soon as you give it this, we have a situation where, wow, we can feel that bass not only on the low end but on other frequencies. And that's the trick. That's the kind of parlor trick that's going on here, is that you feel the bass, you feel like the bass is bassier and thicker, but the truth is it's not really bassier. Maybe it is thicker because it has more frequencies latched onto it, and we perceive this as being more interesting. So let me just go through some of I have some loops here. I'm just gonna drop some beats in here, and maybe while this is playing, I'll lower this so it doesn't clip there. Let's do it on it by itself. Let's grab some saturators and drop them on there and see if you can hear the difference. Let me go for the thermionic culture vulture and drop that on there. Gotta add some drive. So what you'll notice is that things come out when you start to saturate them. Like certain parts of the hi-hat weren't as noticeable as they are now. Listen to that. See how the high frequencies on the hi-hat are more pronounced now when I have the culture vulture in there? Yeah, it's all a little louder. That's true. But let me just lower that and gain match that. But still, the clarity on the hi-hat just becomes a lot more. And that's because there are frequencies that are added on to the hi-hat that are beyond what its fundamental is, that are sprinkled on top, which are higher frequencies that have a musical and thickening effect to the sound of the hi-hat. Let's try a different process, see if that changes the way that it pulls out or shows out. And this is now more aggressive, so I have to pull back on it. But now this is more this process here, this pentode process, is more focused on that kick drum. There's like the hi-hat appears a little more, but not as much as in the triode mode. If you go to triode mode, the hi-hat comes out more than the kick does. So I'll turn it off again. Have to drive it a little bit to get it. So it's not over focused on the lower part of the frequency spectrum. Let's see if this turns up in our spectrum device. So that's with it, and this is without it. So a little less energy going on here. It's not actually getting as high as it was before on the high frequencies. But let's go to the pentode mode. And you see the bump here. This bump, especially here, this frequency is increasing quite a lot. See, that bump is not nearly as pronounced as it is here. Now the pattern changes. So, and that's what's going to happen with the sound, that the pattern will change based on what type of process it went through. That it will sound much different, and that the different types of saturation all have their signature to it. And that's the thing. When it comes to saturators, you do or saturation devices that you're going to use, you're going to have to get used to pulling up a bunch of them. Now, there are some one-stop shops for saturation. The thermionic culture vulture is kind of that. There's also a thermionic culture rooster, by the way. There's also the Ableton saturator, which has a bunch of different processes, which all give you their own signature. And you're going to have to get used to listening to what the signatures do. But there are other ones. One that I need to mention is something from Sound Toys called Decapitator. Decapitator is really, if you need to start with like buying a plugin that's the dedicated saturator, I think Decapitator is a great place to start. There are others. We could talk about, Saturn from FabFilter, and there's plenty of other saturators that you can get into. It's not the only thing, but the Sound Toys for many years has been. They make Sound Toys, by the way, makes some excellent software. All the Sound Toys are just like insane. I think one of the guys that started it came from Eventide, and which had made the original Ultra Harmonizer, and I think the Crystal Castles or the Crystallizer is from the Crystal Castles preset on the Eventide's Ultra Harmonizer. So it's a lot tied to Eventide in a way, but the back to the Decapitator. The Decapitator as a saturator is amazing. It has 5 modes that you could use it in. It has a one from Ampex tape, so it's tape saturation, like I was showing you the tape saturator. Actually, the same tape style of saturation from that Ampex that I showed you is built into it. The Neve console, so an old console, an analog console, will add its own saturation. That's why they say that analog sounds different than software. It's because everything that happens in the analog process has its own signature that it's putting up on something. Even if you have two of the same, the two of the same devices, say you have 2 consoles, 2 SSL consoles, you run the sound through both of them, one's going to sound slightly different than the other. It's just the way that the things are soldered in and the type of components and what batch they came from. All these things make differences in the process and in the sound. So you have once again with the Sound Toys, you have Ampex, Neve, you have an EMI console, you have and a T and a P, which is the triode and the penta mode from the Thermionic Culture Vulture built into it. So pretty cool if you want to have a look at a great saturator. The Sound Toys Decapitator is a great one-stop shop. Other than that, I mean, you can really do saturation almost with anything, starting with FM. So if I had this kick drum here, which I am running it right now through a process. Let's see, what process did we leave it on? The Thermionic Culture Vulture. And it's cutting through the mix now. Let me turn it off. Now, that's crazy how, I mean, I'm going to kind of level match that to, and you might even meter at the same level. So I'm going to make it so that my output is kind of exactly, so this output here is not, is this working? No, this is not the output. This is channel 2 output. I need channel 1 output. Where's the main output on this thing? Hold on. Is this the, so that's the output level on it. And if I turn it off, I just want to level match it correctly so that the meter is the same, and then raise this and show you what the difference is. So that's with it off, and with it on you have a little more. Let me drive it a little more. You have a little more to latch onto. You got all those, especially these 2 front harmonics here to play with that. So that's saturation. We're running out of time for today. I want to take a couple of minutes at the end to just remind you again. Lenavelle says Black Box. That's right. It's an honorable mention. Black Box, definitely. Let's see. What was the laptop speakers? That was the laptop speakers. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah. Pavel has been having trouble listening on his laptop speakers. So again, we are at 343 TV. We're here every Tuesday with Tetro Talks, Wednesday with Electronic Music Essentials, Friday with Production Basics, and on Friday I'll be back again and I'll be making a track from scratch, a techno track on Ableton, and we'll see where that takes us. always very nervous about creating music live in front of you guys because I could fail big time. But hey, that's part of the fun of the whole thing. And we're going to, on Saturday, we'll be having Selway with his Saturdays show. This is his Techno Saturdays. He also is the one to announce the giveaway. Remember, this week we're giving away an Arturia Pigments synthesizer. So if you want to win one of those, please register to win the Arturia Pigments. One of my favorite synths, software synths. It's out there. You could really do so much with it. It sounds so good. It sounds so warm. And remember to please subscribe to our channel. Tell your friends about us. Hit the notification bell. All that fun stuff. And one more last thing, please give me a like if you like what you see. It would be really nice to see you guys chiming in on the thumbs up with me. All right. So I think let's see if there's anything last to talk about in the chat. You guys have been very active, as always, in the chat. Max says, it's Justin's sexy older brother. Okay. Very funny, Max. And that's my boss. Hey, Max, that's harassment. I'm going to sue you for harassment. All right, everybody. With that, let's see. Let me just look. I'm curious to see what you guys have been talking about. Okay, so you guys are talking a lot to each other, which is really cool. And let's see, what else? Hey guys, Philippe Lois says, hey guys, I don't know if you knew, but I right click on the glue compressor and the EQ8 to activate oversampling to improve the quality of the device. Yes, that's a great point to put out there. Let me just let me show you what he means. Or maybe I'm not sure if let's see, right here on the glue compressor, if you right click, you'll see that the oversampling is selected. It is not by default when you install Ableton. You do not get oversampling on. So if you want to have oversampling, you have to right click and make the oversampling happen. It also is the same in the EQ. So if I grab the Ableton EQ8, then throw it in there, and I right click, you can see the oversampling is selected. So what you got to do is go in there and select the oversampling and then save as a default preset, so that every time you drop in an EQ or you drop in the glue compressor, it'll be in oversampling mode. Thank you for that that tip. All right, everybody. So it's 2:00. It's time to say goodbye. I'm glad to be here with you guys. If you missed Justin, I'm sorry. I'm not Justin. I'm just trying to hold the fort for him. He'll be back on next Wednesday, and he'll be back to the regular scheduled program, and he'll be doing his thing again. Hopefully, it wasn't too bad to see me instead of Justin, but he'll be back. I guarantee you, he'll be back. And if you want to see me again, I'm here on Friday. Remember 343 TV, and remember to take that class with me starting next week. If you guys want to get in on one of my new classes starting up, I have a few of them going on there right now that are ending. But on Tuesday, on May 11th, I start this new class, Intermediate Ableton, meaning Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:15. Sorry, 7:15. With that, let me say goodbye, and thank you for joining us. I also forgot to thank Nefertiti Gold. I see you, Nefertiti. And those that all that thanked me, I just wanted to say goodbye and thank you again.